So we're going to start with a brief introduction from the guides. So if you could each share your name, school, major, and how you chose your major.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sienna. I am a current senior at UCLA. I'm double majoring in sociology and public affairs. And when I was a kid, I was very interested in science, but I realized that I was very big. I was very interested in the macro concepts, but I couldn't really master the micro concepts of like biology and chemistry. So I realized that a perfect way to kind of implement my interest in just like macro concepts broadly was through sociology and public affairs. So it was still a very scientific analysis, but more so on people because I'm very interested as well in like social justice and concepts like that. So yeah, that's just kind of how I chose my major. I identified not only my interests but also my analytical strengths, and that's
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm a current freshman at Harvard. I live in Matthews dorm. Um, I have not yet declared my we call them concentrations. That happens at the end of sophomore year. But I came in knowing that I wanted to do something philosophy related. Um, and I kind of, within this semester, really um, became sure that neuro was the thing that I wanted to double with. I've always loved biology, and I was playing with psych for a second, but the neuro department here is really amazing, and those are the yeah, that's the double that I'm currently thinking about. Um, just kind of because of the classes that I've taken and what I feel like I'm interested in, but a lot of people at Harvard kind of try out a lot of things the first couple of years.
Hi, my name is Arsha. I am a sophomore at the University of Maryland. I am a computer science major. And the reason I chose computer science, I've always loved using technology. Ever since I was little, I thought laptops and computers and keyboards were so fascinating. And then in high school, I took a couple of coding classes. And I remember always thinking that those were the most interesting classes to me, and I wanted to continue learning more about that. So yeah, that's why I decided to choose computer science, and I love it. So yeah.
Hey guys, my name's Liam. I'm a first year student at Princeton, and I'm planning to major in the School of Public and International Affairs, which is basically kind of our like economics, politics, administration kind of like mixed major, and minor in German. And yeah, growing up, I really liked traveling. I like learning about different cultures, and I kind of wanted to put that towards what I did in my education. And so I'm really focusing on the international affairs part of my major, and yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So for the actual Q&A, we're going to break it up into three sections so that we can give the guides here tonight an opportunity to share a little bit about their experiences with admissions, campus life, as well as career exploration. So this will be guided by Caleb and I, but like I said at the start, we really encourage all of you to ask anything that is relevant to you. And so feel free to drop any questions in the chat, or also you can raise your hand and we'll be sure to call on you. So we'll go ahead and get started with admissions. I'm going to ask this question initially to all of you. I'm really curious, A, how many schools did you apply to? And B, what was that decision process like for choosing which schools to apply to?
I can go first. So in total, I applied to 14 universities. I had a lot of safety schools. I had a lot of middle grade or middle range schools, and then I had a few reaches as well. Very important to identify really what your academic resume looks like or CV and understand like really what schools are looking for so you can be strategic with it. Of course, we have a lot of Ivy League students sitting on this call today, but They do look for very specific guidelines. So if that's not you, then just ensure that you're giving yourself every single opportunity for success. So yeah, applied to 14 different universities, all out of my hometown because I loved it, but I really wanted a new experience. And I ended up settling on UCLA because personally, I'm from Orange County, California. It was close enough to home to where I could go back home if I really needed to, but it was still far enough away to where I felt like I was getting that new college experience. Additionally, UCLA ended up being the highest ranking school that I made it into in terms of admissions. And for me, I was really in search of just that name to have on my resume because I knew a lot of opportunities come out of that. So yeah, I ended up choosing UCLA out of the schools that I made it to. And additionally, in Los Angeles, there are countless job opportunities. So if you're like me and you try to capitalize in on the professional aspect of your college career, or at least that's something that you're looking to do, then I would highly recommend it. Every single industry is located specifically in Los Angeles. So whether you want to go into consulting, finance, computer science, personally, I'm within sports and entertainment, and I've had the opportunity to work for the LA 28 Olympic and Paralympic Organizing Committee. I've worked for the Dodgers Foundation, UCLA football. Right now, I work for NBC Universal. So if you're looking to get in on the entertainment realm, then would highly recommend going to an entertainment city like UCLA. But all in all, I was really looking for the reach that UCLA had in terms of its name, alumni network, because there are so many students who have graduated from here, and location as well.
I can go next. I applied EA to Harvard. Harvard was the only school I applied to, and got in and just like committed. But I will say, like, I had a list of regular decision schools that I was going to apply to, because the way that the Ivy Leagues do EA, it's restrictive, and you can't apply to any other private schools if you've applied to an Ivy early. Um, which was the reason that I only applied to Harvard. And then I like Sienna said, it's a great idea to have a long list of schools, different ranges, obviously, which I also did have. I just got super lucky with, the college admissions, and I managed to get into my first choice. Um, as for Harvard, I think that with the Ivies, a lot of people do go here because, famous, prestigious. In terms of the Ivies, though, Harvard was my top choice also because it's the closest to home. I'm from Nantucket, so it's only a couple hours away. I love Boston. I've always loved Boston. Cambridge is an amazing city, both super walkable, super fun. Um, and the campus obviously is beautiful, but I think that everybody says that about their campus.
Yeah, I can go next. So I applied to, I think, 15 or 16 schools, and honestly, my list was it was all over the place. Obviously, I had the same thing, safeties, targets, and then a lot of reaches because I honestly wasn't even sure when I was applying exactly what kind of school I wanted to apply to. So I don't want to limit myself. I applied to like some small schools, some big schools, both close to home and really far. I'm from Jersey. I applied to some Cali schools, but then I also applied to like Rutgers, of course. And yeah, I didn't want to limit myself, and I because I wanted to see like what schools I could possibly get into before narrowing down my list. And that was kind of my thought process. I'm like, you only apply, like, this was only a process I wanted to do once, so I didn't want to limit myself. And I just wanted to apply to as many schools as I could. And then for the reason I chose UMD, as I said, I'm a computer science major, and that was probably the biggest factor for me. UMD has a really good computer science program, and it's getting better each year. And that was really big for me. And I already like I'd known of some people, some family friends who had gone to UMD and they really enjoyed their experience there, so that definitely helped. And then also I really like the location. Like I said, I'm from Jersey. So I feel like Maryland is kind of perfect. It's not too close, not too far, because I wanted to kind of be more independent in college, not be like too close to home. I didn't want to stay in state, but then I also didn't want to be too far. And yeah, I think it was a really good decision for me because it's the perfect balance of challenging, like school wise, but then also I love the culture and I love how close I am to home as well.
Yeah, I guess that leaves me. So I applied to two schools. I applied to Princeton restrictive early action, and the way that it works with Princeton is you can apply early action to Princeton, and it's the only private school that you can apply to early. So I applied here and applied to Indiana University, which is my state school. Um, and then I got my decision from Princeton before every other application was due. So I like committed because it was my first choice and didn't apply anywhere else, thankfully. But I would have definitely applied to more places had I not gotten into Princeton. Um, the reason I chose Princeton, the reason I really liked it was first off, the financial aid package that I got was amazing. It was like cheaper to go here than it would have been for me to go to IU, which was like really nice. So you know, it definitely affirmed my decision of like staying here. Um, Additionally, I thought the campus here was very beautiful. I toured the other Ivies as well, but I thought our campus was a little bit nicer than the rest. No shade there. And also just the major program here. I thought it was really important to focus on a school that had a very like specialized major in what I wanted to do. And I thought that like the different approaches that the school here of international affairs takes is really interesting. So academically, I really liked what I could study here, and so that's why I chose Princeton.
Perfect. So we've actually already got some questions in the chat. So the first one being, what was the hardest thing you dealt with during the admissions process?
Um,
I I think for me it was the essays. I'm a wonderful academic writer, but when it comes to writing your college essays, I'm terrible at it because it's a completely different syntax that you're using with those. Your college essays, the purpose of those is to get a really good insight as to who you are as a person. So they don't want a ton of like academic jargon about thing like yeah they just want to be you they want you to be true to you and think of it as writing like a journal entry, just like a lot of first person, of course like still use correct grammar and all of that good stuff, but yeah, just like make sure that your personality is able to shine through while you are painting an accurate picture of who you are, why you deserve to the school, or whatever else the prompt is. Personally, and I know a lot of other individuals when we were applying to college hired individuals who helped us write our essays. They didn't like write them for us. Please don't do that. That's horrible. But they helped like kind of come up with ideas, edit for grammar and flow and things like that. I know individuals who had great tutors. I know individuals who had not so great tutors. So it's definitely good to ask around your network, even with like school counselors and things like that, to see what resources in terms of that are available to you. So, yeah, essays were not my strongest suit, but thanks to just kind of having a couple resources like that, that just kind of got the ball rolling. From there, I was able to let my mind flow onto the paper and turn in my essays, which eventually got me into UCLA.
Perfect. I'm going to jump in because we're getting a bunch of other questions. So, Liam and Anna already talked about, early action and early decision a little bit. Arsha, I'm curious if you could jump in. What was the thought process there for you in terms of early action, early decision, regular decision?
Yeah, so for this, I definitely think it does depend a lot on the person and what you find while you're researching colleges. All of my top choices and all the reaches that I applied to were public schools just because of like computer science rankings. That's how it ended up being. And a lot of public like state schools don't even offer early decision. So I personally just didn't really have that option because my top schools just didn't have the option. If they did, I definitely would have applied early decision. I think a lot of schools that offer it, it definitely increases your chances of getting in. It shows that you're committed to going to that school. And again, if my top choices offered it, I definitely would have done that. As for early action, as long as it's not like restrictive with like the Ivy League situation, I applied early action everywhere that I could because I think it's really, really helpful for your own sake to get your college apps done as soon as possible and not build on that stress. And also, I do think a lot of times it does increase your chances. I know at least at UMD, you are a lot more likely to get in if you apply early action. So if you have the option to do, I would definitely do that.
Perfect. Liam, I'll ask you this one. In terms of I think this is most directly for the essay itself. How did you go about demonstrating what your passion was, what you were most interested in as a high schooler, prepared for getting prepared for college?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the big thing on that is like everyone has an academic interest or like something that they want to study. And so I think in my essays and kind of also in like my extracurriculars, I tried to demonstrate that my interest was, international affairs, the intersection of culture and politics and those types of things. So all of my essays I wrote about, various aspects of that, like whether it was my experiences, interacting with people of different cultures, whether it was my experiences learning about politics. And so I kind of tried to like cover a different aspect of that with each of my essays. Additionally, with my extracurricular activities, like freshman year, I was involved in like some business clubs and stuff like that at my high school. And then I realized like that's not what I want to study and I don't enjoy it. So like I just didn't spend my time doing it. Um, and so I tried to only do things really that kind of were related to what I wanted to study. And I tried to write only essays that were related to what I wanted to study instead of kind of, being like uh, like well-rounded in terms of academics. Like I just focused on what I enjoyed and what I wanted to study here. And I think that's kind of what they look for in that.
Perfect. I'll open it up to anyone who wants for the last one. What you were kind of talking about just now, Liam, bleeds into kind of the next two questions, which I'll combine. What specifically within high school, whether it's AP classes, extracurriculars, specific courses, do you think had the most impact on your application and acceptance into your school?
I don't believe that there's like a formula to get into, especially like, I mean, I'm sure that like Ivy admissions look for kids who challenge themselves to some extent, right? In high school, you take APs or whatever. But I don't really buy the whole like you have to do like this freshman year, this sophomore year, this junior year, this senior year to get into an Ivy. I never like Googled like tips to get into Harvard, what to write about in your college essay, anything like that. I just kind of I did what I was interested in. I um, tried not to do too many things. I did things that I cared about, and I really spent a lot of time and energy kind of going really like deep into them and pursuing them. And I think that my application reflected that. I think that that was what they liked. You just have to spend time doing what you actually care about and talking to people who do what you care about. And if like a club doesn't exist, if an initiative doesn't exist, like do it yourself. And in terms of I wanted to talk about really quick the essay thing that Liam was talking about because I didn't go into college knowing what I wanted to study necessarily. And I don't think that you have to, it doesn't hurt you if you don't know what you're going to study. I wrote my essays mostly about how much I care about meeting people and building community and learning. And I think that that is also like a valuable thing to write about. You can, like, if you know what you want to study, like, by all means, that's amazing. But at the same time, like, it's not going to hurt you if you don't know yet. Like, they're not going to penalize you for that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So that concludes our section on admissions. So now I'll pass it over to Caleb to lead the section on campus life.
Sure. Yeah. And just a note, I just saw another question come up there in the chat. We have two more sections here, campus life and career exploration. If we get through both of those quicker than anticipated, we will definitely try to circle back to any unanswered questions. But for now, we're going to move on to campus life. So my first question for all of you is kind of what surprised you most in your transition to college, like your first year, on campus, and how did you adapt to that surprise? And anyway,
I can
yeah.
start.
So,
So, to be completely honest, I really did not like my first semester of college. Going to a public school out of like a state school out of state was definitely a big challenge for me. It was hard for me to make friends because a lot of people at Maryland, they just stick with their high school friends and friends they've known from home and their hometowns and mutual friends. And as someone who didn't like, none of my friends from high school came to the same university as me, so it was definitely difficult at first. And I think first semester was a lot of adjusting to that. But the way that I started to love this campus was genuinely getting involved. And so many people will tell you that, but getting involved in organizations and clubs is the best thing you can do for yourself. That's how you're going to meet people that you like connect with. And actually, that's where I've met like all my closest friends who I know I'm going to be friends with for a very long time. So, yeah, that's kind of my take. But I do think it's a lot of people don't talk about enough like how first semester can be really difficult and how like at times I was like, oh, I don't see how like this is going to get better, but like eventually as long as you like stay positive and you get involved and just try to be active on your campus, I think everyone can like fit in at or the right school for them.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Going off of that, getting involved absolutely transforms your college experience. I think the biggest shock coming to UCLA is that it is known as such a big school, but because I was involved and like right when I started college, I rushed a sorority, and then after that, I ended up finding on-campus jobs where I met like-minded people and other clubs, student government, for example, all that good stuff. Campus just felt so much smaller. It really didn't feel like I was at such a big university with so many people from all over the world anymore. It felt like I had finally had my community. And even anytime I met a new friend where we weren't in any of the same clubs, we didn't really have any of the same interests, not even the same major. It turned out that we had so many people friends just because of how involved we were on campus. So at a school like UCLA, where we currently have 3,500 or 35,000 undergraduate students, it can be whatever you want it to be. If you're looking to come to college to have that, really big college experience, you can meet anyone, you can have that. But also, if you are maybe a little scared of coming to a school like UCLA because you're worried it's just going to be too overwhelming, there's too many people, I would not worry about that at all because truly, whatever kind of environment you want to find, you can make for yourself.
Yo, Liam, do you want to add anything to that?
yeah, no, I was just gonna agree with the points kind of like about um finding finding a community. I mean, coming from Indiana, there's not too many Princeton, or there's not too many people at Princeton that come from Indiana. So I was very worried about that. I'm one of like two people from Indiana that are going here right now in my class. And so I was like, worried. How am I going to meet people? Like, all these people are coming from New York City and like and whatever, all these cities on the East Coast. And like, I'm from Indiana. Like, I didn't think I was gonna maybe fit in with those people as much or like be able to relate to them, or I didn't go in knowing them, but I think definitely like the thing that was most surprising to me is how easy it is to really just like go up to people and talk to them, and how rewarding it is. Like some of my best like friends now are people that I met just randomly, like either we were randomly placed together in a group during orientation, or like I just sat next to like a table, or sat next to them at the table in the dining hall one day. And so those kinds of experiences really were surprising to me, how easy it is to just meet people. And I think everyone's kind of in the same boat, and in coming to a new place, and starting out and like completely changing every aspect of their life just at one moment when you move into college. So that was definitely a surprising part of my experience.
Awesome. All right, so going to move on to our next question here, and that is if you could just walk us through kind of what a typical day or week is like for you, living on campus, going to classes, clubs, social life, just, kind of how would you, to a high school student, describe your experience being a college student?
I guess I can start on that. So for me, like the typical day, it starts a lot later than in high school, thankfully. Like I don't have class until 11 or 12:30. And I don't have class on Fridays. So I've got a pretty nice schedule in terms of timing. So it starts a lot later. I wake up a lot later than I did in high school, which is probably not a great thing. I go to my classes. After classes, typically end around like 4 o'clock. Then I head. I'm on the rugby team here. I walked on to that. So I had to practice after class. Usually I'm done with that around 6. Then I get dinner, and then it's usually club meetings like until like 9 or 10, depending on what clubs you're involved in. And then you've got to do some schoolwork. Usually, I probably don't do enough of that. I probably should do more, but then it's usually a couple of hours, depending on your major. My major is not as much, but the engineering majors it's like 5 hours. But I do do my schoolwork. I do my readings. I do my essays, whatever. And then usually I'm in bed by like 12 or 1. Sometimes like right now is midterm, so it's more like 2 or 3 or 4. And then just get up and do it again. And then the weekends are usually a little bit more laid back. That's the interesting thing is like you have so much more time on the weekends than you would think. And just a lot of hanging out with friends, going to sports games and stuff like that, and also trying to catch up on the work that you missed out on during the week. Yeah.
I can go next. I am a little bit jealous of your late start. This semester, I have a Monday through Friday 9 a.m., which has been a real adjustment from last semester. But I actually kind of like having mandated like 8:30 wake up time because otherwise I will sleep in super late and I will miss so many hours of daylight. So I'm up usually by 8 or 8:30, and then my classes will get out around 3 or 4, 3 usually. And then I'm in my major extracurricular right now is the Harvard Advocate, which is our campus literary magazine. I have usually 2 work meetings that will be from 2 to 3 hours a week. And then there's usually 1 or 2 socials a week from that club. And then I have 2 other clubs. So my day will usually end, like Liam said, around 12 or 1, or midterms, probably like 2. Yeah.
At UCLA, we're on the quarter system, so admittedly, I think it's a little better than the semester system. If you guys are kind of wondering, if that's something that you should decide which school to go on or to go to. So instead of being on the semester system in which you have 2 15-week long or so semesters, at UCLA, you have 3 10-week long quarters. And my favorite part about that is that it enables you to take less classes at a time. The average student at UCLA takes 3 classes at a time. And yes, sometimes enrollment for classes is impacted, and you might have to, pivot on which classes you may be taking. But for most of my quarters at UCLA, I have been able to have class 2 or 3 days a week, and the rest of my days are completely free. If you want to stack like 4 classes in a day, which again are like only 15 minutes each, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and have a 4-day weekend plus a day in between, or if you want to just have 1 class every single day, Monday through Friday, then you can do that too. At UCLA is really, really malleable. So since my flexible was so since my schedule was so flexible all the time at UCLA, that enabled me to do a lot of other things like extracurriculars. I got to have internships, where like if the commute time was really long or if I had to work like a full day in person, like I did at Dodgers Foundation, the hours were 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., then I had the flexibility to do that because my schedule allowed me to. So definitely something worth considering. If you are double majoring, you might have to take more classes at a time. For me, my entire sophomore year, I took 4 classes at a time, but after that, I didn't have to. But yeah, that's a typical day of my life. It can be as easy if you're only doing classes, or as hard if you're doing internships and jobs and whatnot, as you want.
So, all right, we've got a couple questions in the chat, so I'm going to try to get to some of those before we have to move on to our next section. So Rebecca asked, I think this is specifically for you, Liam. How do you manage being on a sports team and also, staying on top of your academics, being at an Ivy League, and obviously there's, a high level of rigor there.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's a nice situation to be in when you enjoy your sport, you enjoy like your teammates and stuff. Like I really like I go to practice and like I go to weightlifting or whatever, and like with the team, and it's like a great part of my day, and it's like super fun. And so I think that like building those relationships makes it a lot more manageable because I don't see it as like, oh, I have to go to practice for 2 hours. I can see it like, oh, I get to go to practice for 2 hours and be with my friends and hang out, and get some social time that you might not get otherwise. On top of that, like um, definitely they're very flexible here with those kinds of things. Like they understand that academics kind of comes first, and the school really reinforces that on the sports teams. Like academics have to come first. So things like travel usually don't impact academics at all. We like if we have a game on Saturday where it's far away, we'll leave on Friday night, usually after classes are done, and get to wherever we're playing. We're going to play Tennessee. We play University of Tennessee on Saturday, but that's over spring break, so that's not impacted classes and stuff like that. So I think definitely, the things like the travel and the time commitments, the practice times and stuff are all kind of molded around academics, and so I think that definitely helps. And it's something that I am sure for every they make sure that the academics come first, and the team is there to help you. The captains of the teams are always telling us, if you ever need help academically, like reach out. And so everyone's in kind of that same boat, and I think that helps a lot as well.
Awesome. All right. Gonna try to do at least one more question on this section before we move on. Maddie, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, asked how many classes a day do you take on average? I know Sienna already touched on this for herself, but maybe Arsha, if you want to start with this, how many classes do you usually have per day?
Yeah, for sure. So, obviously, like it'll always vary semester to semester, especially with CS. Some semesters will be like lighter. Freshman year wasn't terrible, but in CS, I'm always taking like CS classes and math classes, and I'm also fulfilling my general like education requirements. So for me, it'll usually be like 3 to 4 classes a day. I think maybe one semester but like usually it's like 3 to 4, and it's not terrible for me. I feel like it's pretty productive, and I think it's a good course load.
This semester for me, I have 3 or 4 a day. Art blocks are 75 minutes. So I'll have usually three or four classes a day, and then one section, like a discussion section for a class a day. Typically, sometimes it ends up being two sec.
Yeah, same here. It varies semester by semester and also by your major. I take 2 classes a day right now, and 4 per semester. If you're an engineering student here, you have to take 5 per semester. If you're a math student, I think it's also 5. So it varies, but I usually take two classes a day and like 4 a semester.
Great. All right. So with that, we'll wrap up our campus life section, move on to career exploration, and I'll pass it back to Jake to moderate that section.
Perfect. So, Sienna, you're the senior on the call, so we'll start with you, but anyone else feel free to jump in. I'm curious, what has been the most valuable professional experience you've had thus far at UCLA, and how did you find that opportunity?
Yeah, so the most valuable professional experience I've had since being at UCLA was my very first internship, which was again at LA 28, which I don't know if you guys know, but the Olympics are coming. The Olympics and Paralympics are coming to LA in 2028. So it was like that entire organizing committee. And I was a human resources intern. So, as with most internships, which I don't think a lot of people realize, getting that was just by chance, of course. Like I was qualified. I didn't have any connections to LA 28. I didn't have like my mom knows this guy or something like that. But it was my very first professional internship. And I ended up speaking to my boss about it. And she said that she thought I would be the perfect fit for the human resources internship because within UCLA student government, which was listed on my resume when I applied, I was director of interns. So I created an internship program every single year under UCLA student government. I hired interns. I created, learning plans for them. I placed them under other directors to learn. And my boss, who again hired me for the role, said that she loved how I was a leader among peers with that. And she thought that that opportunity would translate perfectly to my role at LA 28, because since I was a human resources intern, I would essentially act as the liaison between the organization, the human resources department, and the rest of the interns. That was so ultra specific. I want to say that just to show that, like, getting internships is really hard. And no matter how much experience or anything you have, like, you're not going to get, if you have an internship literally everywhere, you're still going to get rejections. You're still going to get non-response. And it's just about identifying the unique qualities that you have from all your experiences, um, and identifying, like, how those can specifically such a good thing to join in college. And that's truly just because barely anyone comes into college with professional experience. Like for me, I worked some part-time jobs in high school, but not all of that, not all of those skills are transferable. So joining student organizations is such a good entry level step into getting a career. Like truly at LA 28, which I have so many people now messaging me on LinkedIn, just being like, hey, can we set up a call? How did you get this internship? Like, it's just about identifying your strengths and finding experience where you can. Of course, if you don't have any job experience in college, you're not going to get an internship at Google. You're not going to get an internship at Microsoft, but you can get experience through student organizations and things like that. So just like the college application process, it's important to identify kind of where you stand in the ladder, but then from there, what tangible steps you can take that will lead to success. So after LA 28, I took that and I realized that that was a really big step that I had just kind of been given, and I took it and I ran. So from there, that's how I ended up getting a job at Los Angeles Dodgers. That's how I ended up getting my job at UCLA football. I was like a sideline during games intern, which was wonderful. And that has all kind of snowballed into my career now at NBC Universal. So all in all, getting internships is hard, but just identify where your skill sets are and again, what small steps you can take that will end up leading to those larger steps. Because everyone starts from somewhere. And even if you think you don't have any experience, but everyone else in your class has a ton, you can still get to that point. It's never too late to start, but starting earlier is always better.
Perfect. And so then for the freshmen on the call, Anna and Liam, I'm curious, how are you kind of thinking through things right now in terms of how you plan to balance academics as well as, career exploration, networking, things like that?
Um, yeah, I would say for me, the the internship search was as kind of already started. Like I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of pressure here to kind of get those freshman year. But the school has been very helpful in helping me out with that. So I got one through the German department. I'm going to be in Berlin over the summer at a global affairs firm, which was like awesome and was so great that the school kind of offers those things to students that are minoring or majoring in German, and every major here really kind of has opportunities like that. Um, so I got that internship basically through the German department here, which was good. I would also say that there's a lot of pre-professional, clubs and organizations on campus that kind of offer those things in almost any field that you could imagine. So I'm also going to be going in next year or starting in April I'm going to be working with an institute here that's like a pre-professional foreign policy association. Which is an awesome opportunity and includes a ton of travel to Europe over the next 2 years. So like those kinds of things, those opportunities, I think are definitely plentiful. You just like have to have the not necessarily confidence, but like you have to have the willingness to like go out and search for them. Like I cold emailed someone in the German department. It was like, hey, what's this thing on your website about the work program? And that's how, I ended up kind of getting this opportunity. And then with the Free Professional Foreign Policy Association, I just cold emailed one of the presidents and was like, hey, what is this? When I was like on the second week on campus. And so those kinds of things are definitely there. You just have to be able to reach out to people and don't be afraid if like you reach out to someone and they don't respond. And yeah, that's kind of how I've been navigating that, I would say.
Um, the internship search, I feel like, is like horrific no matter where you are, basically. I think I I think that my school has we have the Center for Career Success, which basically does like job fairs like once a month, like different concentrations. Um, I wasn't thinking of doing an internship this summer just because a lot of the internships, especially like in the Boston area, whatever, in New York, require that you're 18, and I'm not yet 18. So I was like, oh, I'll just give it a break this year. I'll do it next year. But I'm just applied to one that's in my hometown. So I'm thinking of doing some nonprofit work this summer, and then get started with like the actual real internship search next year. But I am working right now. I have a part-time freelance job. I was very I was very lucky to come into college with 2 years of professional journalism experience. So I am doing my own freelance work for a magazine that I was writing for um, before coming into college. But having a part-time job can be difficult to juggle with school as well. Honestly, having the kind of part-time job that like gives you a set schedule with set hours is kind of easier than having one where you have to find the time to do the work yourself, because finding the time is so hard. Um, so that's something that I'm kind of working on right now this semester, getting more comfortable with building my own work schedule on my own time.
Perfect. And Arsha, I'd be curious to hear from you as well about what your experience has been like with networking opportunities at Maryland or any other career exploration opportunities you've had at UMD.
Yeah, definitely. So again, like I said, getting involved is it goes such a long way. I decided to rush a professional business fraternity, and that was probably the best decision I made. I met my best friends, but also like professionally, I've met some of the smartest people probably at UMD. Like it's a business fraternity, but it's open to all majors. And being CS, I've met a lot of CS majors who are like they're graduating and working at like Google, Amazon, Meta, literally all the like big tech FAANG companies. And like I've become like close friends with these people, and now I'm getting like personal like advice from them. They're guiding me through the recruiting process. And again, obviously it has been so difficult. Especially I feel like with CS right now, it's like it's so difficult. I mean, it's difficult in all majors right now, finding internships. Like everyone else said, it's going to be a lot of rejection and a lot of just like you have to like motivate yourself to keep going, and just like you won't hear back. You're going to email people, you're not going to hear back from them, but like just keep going, because a lot of it is like a numbers game. You get random interviews by getting lucky, to be honest. A lot of times like you apply to the same company 10 times, and then the 10th time is when they'll actually give you an interview. Like that's something that's happened with me. And um again, like I am still a sophomore, so I am still like hoping to like get a more like better internship for like next year, but I was able to secure an internship for the upcoming summer, like a smaller cybersecurity internship that is in New Jersey. But again, like I think Sienna was saying, everyone starts somewhere, and like once you like have one thing down, you'll only like grow from there. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned. And UMD, like the alumni network has been super helpful. I'm also in an honors program that has like a great alumni like directory that I can just like search companies and find people who were in that honors program who work there. And that's been super helpful, just like finding people to contact. And I think like growing your network is one of the biggest things, like just talking to people, doing coffee chats with people who've been in similar experiences, who took the same classes, went to the same school as you, because you just like you can learn from each other. And I think that's the biggest thing I've learned. And I think that's one of the biggest things in just growing professionally and being successful professionally is growing your network. I think that's like my biggest advice. Even with like college admissions, talking to people who have been through it, I think is the best thing that can help you as well.
Perfect. And so to kind of close out this section, I'd love to hear from each of you. Obviously we've just been talking about, internships and career exploration, and sometimes that can be really overwhelming for a high schooler who doesn't even fully know what they're interested in just yet. And so what's one final piece of advice that each of you has for how you can actually, figure out, what actually is your interest and start to go down that path of career exploration?
When I worked at UCLA football, I worked very closely with kind of the head of player professional development. He was so accomplished. He was in the NFL, but then he ended up getting his master's degree as well. And now he just kind of works with players, and he's just kind of a career coach in general. And the biggest piece of advice that he gave me was that doing all these internships, doing, all of this student work, one of the biggest things that you will get from it is realizing what you don't want to do. Of course, like so many of my internships have made me realize that I love working in sports and I love, working in entertainment as a whole. And I'm getting a lot of really good experience from that. But at the same time, when I worked in human resources, I realized, you know what? I love working with people, but I don't really like benefits administration and all of that kind of stuff. And then when I worked at Dodgers Foundation and currently right now I work in communications, and I'm like, you know what? I still love again that people work, that interaction, being a liaison on behalf of the company. But I don't like how regimented communications is. I think a lot of people write communications as a major off very easy, but trust me, when you get to the corporate level, it's hard and it is ultra specific. So that is the biggest takeaway that I've had, I think, from every single internship is yes, I'm learning what my true passions are and what kind of communities I like to identify and associate myself with. But I'm also learning what I don't want in the future. And that is one of the biggest things that I'm taking away from these opportunities because imagine I tell myself, oh, I love working with people. Communications is going to be great. That's just working with people, right? And then I end up locking myself into a career in communications, I get a full-time job, that would be terrible. So capitalize on internships because they are literally just trial runs where most of the time you get paid. It's a win-win situation. Everyone knows you're learning, so there's no pressure on like how skilled you may not be. But yeah, take advantage of that. So don't give up. Last year, I applied to almost 200 internships. I kept a spreadsheet of it, and I ended up getting like three offers out of 200, even with LA 28 on my resume and all that stuff. So don't give up, but it takes a lot of hard work. And once your hard work pays off, learn as much about yourself as you can from that experience.
Um, yeah, going off of that, I feel like especially like if you're a high schooler, you're going right into college, you have no idea what to do. The best thing you can do is like get involved and try everything. Never say no to anything because you never know like what you might end up liking. Like the honors program that I'm in, I honestly I only applied to it because my I was with a friend who wanted to hear about it. And then I went up to the table with her. I heard about it, went to the recruiting session, applied, got in. And because of that program, I've realized that I think I want to go into more of like a role where I can again work with people. I realized that I love working with people, and that's what I do in that honors program. And I've realized I am a CS major, but I don't think I want to sit behind a computer and code all day, is what I've learned from that experience. Like, so yeah, my biggest advice is just try everything, especially when you're a freshman. That's the most time you're ever going to have in college, especially like that first semester. Like, take advantage of that, try everything you can, go to everything that you can, because you never know like what you're going to learn about yourself and what's going to stand out to you.
Um, yeah, I would say like definitely like kind of reiterating what's already been said. Definitely try everything. Like, you know, try out a lot of stuff. Try out apply to a lot of different clubs, internships, whatever it may be. And pursue the things that you enjoy, not the things that you think like are gonna look best or like are gonna be, make the most money or whatever. I remember in high school there's a lot of pressure like to go into STEM. I felt like everyone wanted me to like pursue math and stuff, and like my teachers, like my math teachers were all like, oh, you should major in engineering or whatever, or physics. And like I didn't enjoy it at all. Like I really did. Like I'm so bad at math, and I don't enjoy it. And it took a lot for me to like say like, okay, you know what, maybe I'm not going to go into engineering, even though I could make like a ton of money out of college. Like it was hard, but once you've kind of realized what you enjoy, there's no point, I think, in really pursuing other things. And I think I've become a lot more successful. Like I became a lot more successful in my academics, in my extracurriculars, in kind of building a college application and all of that once I realized what I was interested in. And once I started only pursuing the things that I was interested in and the things that I enjoyed, instead of kind of, being like, oh, well, I should be an engineer because it makes a lot of money or because other people want me to be an engineer. And also it just makes things easier when you enjoy the things that you're doing. It doesn't, nothing feels like a chore. Academics don't feel like a chore. When you're studying something that you really love, like going to class is entertaining and exciting, and so it's just a better situation in every aspect of your life, I would say.
I have a couple different things. I hope I remember them all. Number one, if you're still in high school and maybe like you're a junior or whatever, like you still have some time to go, you don't have to like apply for a bunch of things now. If you want to get some work experience, part-time job in your hometown, get involved with a nonprofit, get involved with like something local, something at your school. Maybe junior, senior, start thinking about maybe outside of your school, hometown, what's going on, like what kind of job can you work in the summer? What kind of work experience can you get on your resume? That will be fun and that will be maybe not too stressful. And then when you get to college, don't just take the classes that all the other freshmen are taking. Um, I don't know if like other schools necessarily have this, but like at Harvard, like every single freshman takes Ec 10, which is like the intro to economics class. And like 3/4 of them are not econ majors. They don't need it. It doesn't fulfill any requirements. It's not required. They just take it because their friends are taking it and they don't want to spend the time to look through the course catalog. But that's silly. And like you can take fun, interesting classes, especially first semester. I took a bunch of random electives. Um, and I had so much more fun like meeting professors and meeting people who were not just doing the classes that everyone else was doing because they didn't want to spend the time to go through the course catalog. Um, and my last piece of advice is rejection is okay. And if you're applying to jobs and internships and opportunities that a lot of other people are applying to, it's okay to get rejected. It's okay to not get in. Like, I'm applying to things that people from other schools are also applying to, like all over New England. And like, I get rejected, like, even though I'm a Harvard student. Like, there's no like correct way to do things. You're always going to get rejected from things. The more comfortable you can get with rejection now, the better off you are in college when you start getting rejected from bigger things. And like it is like soul crushing. Like I have seen freshmen and sophomores here who never ever got rejected from anything ever, who like are absolutely devastated when they get rejected from a club for the first time ever. And I'm like, you should have gotten over this in high school. So start getting over rejection now, start getting over failure now. It's a natural part of life. It's going to happen. Get used to it and get comfortable with it.
Perfect. And we'll wrap up the Q&A there. I'll now pass it back over to Caleb.
Sure, thanks, Jake. So that wraps up the Q&A portion of our webinar. We've just got like 5 minutes to go. I want to thank all of our panelists for joining us tonight, taking the time to answer all of our questions. I honestly, I'm out of college now, and I learned a lot. So I hope everyone who joined us also learned a lot. If you have any lingering questions, I know there are a couple we couldn't get to, or maybe questions for students or questions about schools that weren't represented here tonight. Um, we hope our site, which we talked about earlier a little bit, might be a resource for you to be able to connect with students who could answer those questions. So real quick before we wrap up, we're just going to share a quick walkthrough of our platform and how to use it if you want to connect with any of our panelists tonight or maybe students from another school. And then if you stick around to the very end, we have a voucher code to share with you for a discount if you'd like to book with us. So real quick, I'm going to share my screen, walk you through. So our site is at discoverwithducks.com. There it is. We'll also send this URL out in a follow-up email to all of you, so don't worry about losing it. Um, this is our homepage. You can see some of our featured guides down here. Scrolling through, there's Anna. A couple things to note, all of our guides are verified to be affiliated with the schools where they host experiences. So that means that they have .edu email addresses at the schools where they are offering experiences. Second, all of the experiences offered on our site have been manually reviewed and approved by either Jake or I. So two good things to know. Now, if you're looking to book time with a student, you can either search for a specific school, say Harvard, or you can browse guides that we have available across all schools. So doing that, I'm able to see students from a variety of schools, Cornell, Duke, Georgia Tech. Here's Liam. So maybe if you really enjoyed hearing from Liam, you want to ask him a few follow-up questions, we can click on him, learn a little bit more about him, as well as view all of the experiences which he offers. So Liam has both a virtual option as well as two in-person options. So if you're looking to visit Princeton and want to, do it one-on-one with Liam, you can do that. So let's say we want to book a walking tour of Princeton with Liam. We can view the description, exactly what we'll do on this tour, as well as the duration of the tour. And then we can choose a date and time that work for us to do this tour with Liam. So let's say we want to do Saturday, the 29th, say 10 a.m. I can choose that date and time. And then I'm just taken to the checkout page. I can enter my payment details and make my booking. A couple things to point out here. Once I book, I'm able to message Liam directly through our site. So if I have any logistical questions, say, where are we meeting the day of, or where do I park? We can work that out directly through the site by messaging. Second, we know being in high school is crazy, a lot of stuff going on. So we have a very flexible cancellation policy. If for some reason something comes up, you can cancel any experience up to 48 hours before the experience is scheduled to start for a full refund. So that's great to know. Are there any questions about the platform or how to go about booking if you'd like to book time with one of our guides? I see a couple things in the chat. Let's see. Okay, no questions there. All right. So that wraps up the little walkthrough. Jake, you want to share the final slide?
I do not have access.
All right, then I will share. All right, so once again, thank you everyone for joining. Really appreciate you being here. Hope you took a lot away from it. As I mentioned earlier, we want to share this voucher code with you that you are free to use on any experience on our site. That is Dux50. We'll also include that in a follow-up email to all of you after probably tomorrow morning. If you would like to book an experience at a school that maybe does not have a guide yet available, feel free to reach out to us at contact@discoverwithdux.com, and we'd be more than happy to try to set something up for you, find someone who can talk to you. So yeah, if there are no further questions, once again, thank you so much for joining. I saw some of the clapping and thank you. So really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Thank you guys.